this. Yeah, yeah. Welcome. Now the people on Exopolitics TV on YouTube are joining us. So we're with Sarah R. Adams, and we have been giving a bit of background on Sarah. So Sarah, please tell us about a bit about yourself. We've we know that you're a multidimensional healer and that you've had many experiences, including abductions and time travel and all sorts of things. But we'd love to hear it from you directly as to the various experiences that you've had.
So I've had a strange life, that's for sure. I interact with many beings, whether it's ETs, angels, interdimensional beings. I also do a lot of astral projection, where I completely leave my body and go into other realms. I'm able to tap into the Earth's magnetic core, into its energies. So I'm able to kind of download and channel a lot of what's happening there. I would say since a child, these things have happened to me, but they've got more intense within these last 5 years. And I believe because the Earth's magnetic field has a lot to play with it. It has a lot to play in this. The Earth's magnetic field is very, very much alive right now, and it's chaotic. Um, and that's the subject we're going to focus on today. But you know, since past lives, and I remember past lives, many past lives, whether it's Egypt, whether it's Atlantis, or even Mars. In fact, I remember an interplanetary system that was completely inhabited, a hyper civilization that was connected to both to the physical and both to the realms. Just like we have astronauts that we send to the moon, there were what they call priests and priestesses that would walk the realms. So they would send these priests and priestesses to open up new gates and portals, tune the different planets, and tune everything using energy. They could bring the energy of a planet up, and that when the energy of the planet would go up, it would make the planet more fertile. It would make it full of life. Now, these priests and priestesses would be what you call our modern day astronauts, because they would open new realms and they would make new treaties with interdimensional beings in the realms. This is what I remember, and this is why one of my incarnations here is because of this on this planet, is to kind of bring that knowledge back. Say, okay, we have a lot of problems on this earth, whether it's disease, whether it's planetary issues with weather, with our oceans dying, with all of those things. And this actually stems back to long ago, to another planet, to other planets, to hyper civilization, that when certain portals and gateways of energy were opened, the wrong ones, this force came through, of which leeches energy. This force leeches the energy of this planet, and we need to close those gateways and portals. And that was my mission to Earth, is to help close those gateways and portals and to bring a lot of that knowledge back, because I was able to kind of channel into a body when a lot of people forget everything, because this force kind of drains energy as it's draining the energy of this planet.
Right, right. Well, you I was sharing that you showed me some images
Yes.
of apparently sentient energy over the fires. I think it was fires in Australia and perhaps fires elsewhere. So what are your insights and thoughts and experiences about these fires, starting with the Amazon, then with Paradise, California, then with Russia, then with Australia, because they're trying to put it on the meme of climate change, which is a false meme, because there are many, many other aspects, including weather warfare, scalar warfare, HARP, and others. But then you've brought in a lot of other factors, including portals and interdimensional factors. What do you understand is behind these fires, and what are these images that you've been able to uh, isolate and show and identify? And we're going to incorporate some of those images maybe into the video
Mhm.
so that people can see exactly what we're talking about.
So, let me start with the backstory on this. That way, I think this will help people to understand what's going on more. As I stated, I believe all the planets were inhabited. This is my memory. Um, it was a hyper civilization. We talk about Atlantis, we talk about certain Lemuria. These are all the same names for this interplanetary system that connected all the planets. But all the planets were connected, but also all the dimensions were connected. So it was very multidimensional, but also connected to all the physical planets. People would go in and out of their bodies. They were very connected to their souls. They would channel energies. No, people lived for hundreds of years, and that's where we got in some of the Bible. It comes from much older writings where they lived for hundreds of years, even thousands of years, because the more energy you have in your body, the more you can regenerate or stay alive for a long time. So they knew how to channel energy, this hyper civilization. What I remember is that there was a portal opened on Mars. Now, all the planets used to look similar to Earth, even almost more vegetation than even we have now on Earth. They were fully fertile. There was trees and plants and everything. What happened is a portal was opened that shouldn't have been opened. So we had these priests and priestesses that they would like remote view. They would look into another dimension and say, we're going to open this portal and we're going to make an alliance with these beings. And those beings would bring their knowledge, and there would be this alliance. And because creation is vast, creation is infinite, the divine is infinite, there's massive amounts of creation. And what I remember is that they opened the wrong portal. They opened a portal that they shouldn't have opened. And some of these priests and priestesses said not to open this portal, and the other group decided to do it anyhow. When they opened this portal, this force came out, and this force just is opposite. Instead of giving energy, our sun gives energy, even our moon, the planets all give us energy. Everything gives us energy. This force takes energy. It's very vampirical. And this force came through, and it came through on Mars. And this is where I've spoken a lot about this in the past, Mars. And that's why when it came through on Mars, it heated the planet up. Actually, that's why Mars is red. This force is very yang. It's very hot. And that's where we have the tails of the devil. And of course, we have the tails of hell and heat. Yes, it comes from this force because this force came from a lower realm. And it came through, it completely annihilated Mars. It drained out the life force of the very planet, of the core of the planet. Saturn was the original sun. The sun we have now is a piece of Saturn's light. So Saturn was the original sun. This group of priests and priestesses used to travel to each planet, and they used to talk to the planet because each planet is a spirit. It's a great spirit. You see it as physical and as a 3D object, but actually it's a spirit. Now, what happens, a planet is created, a solid object is created with energy is condensed together. When energy is condensed together, that creates a solid object. The more the energy is less condensed, the more it's moving, like the sun is less condensed. So if something's condensed, it makes a solid object. Energy, when condensed, makes a solid object. So Saturn was the first sun, and these priests and priestesses would travel to each planet, speak to the core of the planet. The spirit, this planet, would speak to them, and it would say, okay, I need this and this. And there was an exchange. So the planet would charge them, and they would tune the planet. There was an exchange of energy between the planets and this group of priests and priestesses. What I remember is when this force came through the portal, it completely, it took over half of those priests and priestesses, and it compromised them. It went directly for Saturn. Saturn was the first sun, and Saturn was the temple. So these priests and priestesses would go to Saturn, they would charge from its light. Now, because they had such a connection to the planets didn't put up any shields, because actually, just like we can shield in our aura and we could put out a shield to protect ourselves, planets can do the same thing. And they've proven that Earth has a shield. They don't know where it's come from. And that's scientifically proven that our planet has a shield around it. They don't know where it comes from, the scientists. This was put on a long time ago. In fact, when this catastrophic event happened. So what this force did is it eats light. Saturn being the first sun, it went directly. It infected the priests and priestesses, completely annihilated Mars, went from planet to planet, and went directly to Saturn. And Saturn's also, the rings around, it projects our realities. Saturn was tuned to project the realities that we want. And that's why we have the black cube, we have all Saturn worship, because Saturn it's not evil. It's just completely drained of energy and it's being used. It's in control. It's being controlled by this force. So Saturn projects all our realities that we experience here on Earth, and it would project each reality on each planet. And that's why this force went for it, because of its light. So it went through these priests and priestesses and started to absorb the light of Saturn. What happened is that the remaining priests and priestesses gathered the remaining light of Saturn, created the sun, because they knew that they would have to use light to battle this force in the end and just keep life in 3D living. So they created the sun, and with the remaining light of Saturn, Saturn completely shut down. It's like being completely drained from it. And Saturn got shut down, and this force uses it to project the realities it wants here. And now this force eats energy. A lot of people would label it as, and it is the demiurge. I mean, the Bible talks about it. Every single religion on earth talks about this force. Different names, different labels. This force is what's draining this planet. This force, when you encounter an energy vampire, that force is running through them. It's completely drained most of their soul energy, and it's using them to, as a virus. It's an energetic virus. It's going through different people. It's going through animals. It's going through even into our Earth's the core of it, and it just drains light. And it's not necessarily evil. What the thing is that it's like taking a wild lion from Africa and put in the middle of New York City with all the people. It's going to attack people because that's not its original. It doesn't belong there. This force does not belong in our realms. It does not belong interacting with us in the 3D. It does not belong in our area. So what we need to do is we need to realize there are gates and there are portals even open on this planet, connected to gates and portals on other planets. And we need to actually understand that we are much more than our physical body. We are a soul. We are much more than just what you see here. We are a soul. And that soul is energy itself. And we need to start realizing that everything is energy. And how we get up in the morning, we take showers or baths, but we never clear our soul energy. We don't acknowledge that. We need to acknowledge that. And we need to acknowledge that energetic things are affecting us, affecting this planet, affecting our elite leaders, affecting everything, literally everything. We need to start becoming in control of that. Instead of being co-pilots, we need to become the pilots. So we need to go ahead and we need to, kind of shut these gates and shut these portals. And when we do, and push this force back, because we have that ability. In essence, we are God itself. We have this divine spark of God within ourselves. And when we realize this, and when we tap into our soul, we can use that, we can channel that force to push back these negative forces, or these forces, I don't even want to say negative, these forces that are just out of control. Close those gates so that they are no longer affecting our world and affecting us. Because I believe I don't ever remember disease or anything before this force came out. I believe that everything's a symphony, and this is it doesn't belong here. This tune doesn't belong in our symphony. It belongs in the other realm it came from, and it's in a foreign place, and it's going to act wild and savage, and it's going to destroy because it's obviously in a foreign place. And we need to understand this. And I do think that right now people need to realize that they have the ability to take control of this. A lot of these gates are open, and I'll just say this: a lot of elite leaders are infected by this force. And that's why when a person is infected by this force, there's no compassion, there's no love, there's no empathy, nothing. They're very emotionally hard and angry. And what it does is it attacks people who are, because it feeds off the energy, off the emotions. So it attacks people who are empathic and stuff. Our world leaders are not empathic towards the suffering on this planet because of this. That's why you don't see any heart. That's why they don't care about the homeless. That's why they don't care about the suffering, the handicapped, the veterans. They don't care about the elderly. They don't care that there's millions of children that are homeless. There's so many starving and stuff on this planet because they can't, because they are infected like a virus by this force. This force doesn't have any empathy or anything like that. So we need to understand that also, the child abuse going on, the sexual child abuse, is this force that's infected those people, that is feeding off the very light of children, the very energy of children. This force has no boundaries. It's going to feed and keep doing so until we become the pilots and we realize that we are God and we have the ability to push that back and to close those gates and to get control of this planet and to really start healing the issues that we have on it.
You know, this is so synchronous because just about a week ago, uh, uh, a person who's going to be here on Exopolitics TV at the beginning of next month sent me a channeling that he did through an entity called Metatron that used the exact same words that you used. It was called the Great Catastrophe. And they call it the dark force. That the dark force came through in the Great Catastrophe. They call it dark energy. The dark energy came through in the Great Catastrophe. And I've just started, you know, I've gotten like into that book. It's called Aeon, A-O-N. And it's Metatron who's just saying exactly the same things that you just said. So it's just amazing. So all of a sudden, it looks like the light is starting to gather and coming with this awareness and coming forward, because this awareness is it's just amazing how it just came into this space just in the last week. Is that something that you find happening in your life?
Diamonds are made under pressure. And I think right now people are waking up more because they're like, oh my goodness, the world's burning. We have volcanoes everywhere. All this stuff is happening. But it's pressuring them to wake up more too. So I think see, I've always known these things. And then I suffered, and I think we talked about this, I suffered so many attacks in the Awakened community, people just randomly. And I realized I had to get over, because I'm so sensitive and I love people and I'm always trying to help them. I had to get over the fact that, okay, yes, I live in a 3D world, but also I understood I'm being attacked because this force knows I'm aware of it and it's coming through people and it's trying to drain my light because it's aware of this. So it was using these people to try to gang up on me. And honestly, at one point I was so overwhelmed, and I think I was a bit younger then, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I came to this planet on this mission. This is really hard. Like, it's really, really hard. I'm like, it's so hard. And then I just let it, I let it really make me almost like the diamond under pressure. I just learned so much from it and understood a lot from it. And I was able to, tap into it and interact with it. And I understood how its essence and what it does and how it is. And it provided me a lot of knowledge. But you know what? It really strengthened. I'm so spiritual and I'm so close to the divine. And it really, really helped me with that, because it was like, when you don't have very many people, now I'm so blessed because I have support of so many people. I'm so blessed, and they really helped me, especially a lot of people who are just clear and they know something's wrong. They really supporting me. I'm so thankful for that. But whenever you just have nothing and nobody, you're just left with the divine. That is just, to me, it made me realize that even though I'm in a 3D body, I always have the divine. I'm never truly alone. And so I just learned a lot from it, and I learned just a lot about how the divine, which is this beautiful energy that flows through everything, to this energy that just takes, and how our world leaders just, in a way, they're in league with this force that takes. And even us, if we're not givers, if we're not charging our field, we become takers. We become part of that force, and we start to wither away. And the divine gives life. It heals us. It makes us happy. it can make us live for thousands of years, like on previous planets, and it can heal this world. And we just need to start choosing the divine and choosing to be givers, to heal our energy fields, and to truly awaken, to stop being in league with this force. Just look at our everyday lives. Are we taking more? Are we giving more? What are we aligned to? Because we have the ability to kick this force out. And as powerful as it seems that it's destroyed entire planets, we're more powerful because we have God within us. We are the divine in bodies. And so I think it made me more powerful person, more powerful being to interact with this force. So in a way, it was meant to do that. Now it was like the divine was like, okay, you're doing all this work on it. You need to start telling people more about it, because all of us are pieces of puzzle Doesn't matter how advanced we are, we all have to join our energy, all our light together. And I like the Statue of Liberty a lot because I know everybody kind of sees it as maybe a negative thing. I don't. So the Statue of Liberty is very interesting because, she's holding the light above her head. And the Statue of Liberty is French artist, it's Isis. And she's holding the light above her head because she's saying that true liberty will come when we hold the light of the soul above our physical, when we tap into the light of the soul. The light she's holding above her head represents the soul, the light, the divine spark within. So true liberty and true power will come when we hold our souls above our 3D physical. Everything's coded, everything's given us a message, whether it's on TV, whether it's in music, everything gives the same message. And Jordan Maxwell talks about that quite a bit, but it's all the same message. All this message about finding our Christ self, not a literal Christ. We are all the Christ. It's about tapping into that Christ consciousness, that higher consciousness, becoming Christ ourselves. And that is, and even in the Bible, it says, Jesus says, you will do greater works than me. Nobody's really doing greater works than Christ, and Jesus was healing people and stuff because of the fact they haven't tapped into their souls yet.
Yeah, and just my
light, so it doesn't seem so dark. It just seems so
yeah,
dark.
yeah. No, the light on you is just fine. Now, the memory that I have, I've just gotten into this Metatron book,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been reading sources, Metatron, Megatron, but the Metatron book says that Earth and Earth humans are very, very special as cosmic beings, and that just as you said, there were experiments going on here because we were 12th dimensional beings. We were in the 12th dimension.
Yes.
And we were doing all of these experiments as you were talking about. So exactly what you were saying is what this book says. So that's what's blowing my mind, is that there's this congruence. And then as and then it went terribly wrong, and the dark energy appeared out of these experiments, and then that's what brought humans down from the 12th dimension all the way down to where we are now. And
Go ahead.
yeah, no, I'm that's all I wanted to say. That
Right. And let me just say right away is that everybody's trying to go to 5D, and 5D is infiltrated. And 5G, okay, so the whole 5G thing, they're doing the 5G thing to actually, the 5G is tied into 5D. They are. So they've infiltrated 5D. There's something they're able to use specific technology when it comes to satellites, Wi-Fi, stuff like that, to tap into dimensions. I've noticed this for years. That's why I said for the last 5-6 years, it's got worse with all the technology going, kind of getting more and more evolved. It's actually primitive technology, because originally we used to speak telepathically and through emotions, and we used to speak through energy. So to me, like, this sort of technology it's like 1D. It comes from this force. All this kind of technology we have now, it comes from this force, which is very, very, it's non-evolved next to what I remember. And 5G, literally, there's the 5G is connected to the 5D. And it's about, and it's about gathering energy and infiltrating infiltrating the 5D going up. So I always encourage people to go higher than the 5D. Years and years ago, I had this experience, and there was this fallen being, and they hit 5D, and they stopped me for a minute because I was going up. And I'll even like saying I was just going past 5D, because up is, I guess, the wrong it's just the wrong term for that. But and it said to me, so I said, oh wait, you can't go. It stopped. It was speaking to me, and it was following me. So I was going. I was going past 5D. I hit 5D, hit 5D. It was like, oh, I can't go higher. And I'm like, why can't you go higher? And it said to me, it said, because we can't go past 5D. You can go higher because, you know, you're allowed to do so because I'm really high frequency, but it couldn't go past 5D. So a lot of the negative beings cannot go past 5D or fallen beings. And that was years and years ago. That was, gosh, that was like 8 years ago, probably, if I remember right. And I don't even live in time. So basically, this being let me know. So I knew back then that 5D was not anywhere. We should be aspired to go beyond 5D. That's where we need to aspire to go. Interested in reading the book at Synchronicity. I love books, but I tend to try to keep a lot of information clear and channeled from myself and from my memories. So I kind of, as much as I love a lot of work of people in this field and respect it, I'm always trying to come with just because so sometimes I just avoid reading spiritual books because of this, because I'm like, oh, I don't want that in my head with all this.
Oh, right.
Yes.
I understand.
Mhm.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
for me, the reason why I bring up that book is that there's such a synchronicity between what you were saying and what I was reading just a week ago. It's like, you know, and because you and the book, you and Metatron, see, it's not the author. The author was just a channel, right?
Mhm.
It was Metatron talking and different entities talking through the book. And maybe we could do, I don't have access to the book right now, but maybe we could do a follow-on program, and or maybe we could bring on the author, and then we could have the words from Metatron talk, and the different beings come in, and then you'll see what we're talking about. They were using the same words that you were using. Like you said, it was a great catastrophe, and that's what they're using in that book, the Great Catastrophe. So that means that awareness is going knock, 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 and is knocking through and coming into our human awareness here on Earth, because what the book says, and this goes against everything in modern science, right?
Mhm.
What the book says is that the Earth is the center of creation. Over to you.
Yes. Okay. So the Earth is actually, it was originally it wasn't inhabited. So when all the other planets were inhabited, Earth was a genetic. They did all the genetics here. It was like a bit of a greenhouse too. So they did different plants, animals. They'd taken genetics off of the other planets too. So wolves, a lot of the animals that we have here come from other planets. A lot of the species of plants, trees come from other planets. It was not meant to be inhabited. It was a genetic they did a lot of genetic creations on it, but the genetic creations that they did on it were aligned to the divine. So there was nothing, it was really high frequency. So they were making just physical bodies, and there was nothing that was like chaotic or anything. And so these beings knew that they had to respect the laws of nature, the laws of the divine, and if they went against them, that was death. So they knew how to create and be creators without destruction or without chaos. So they were doing that. So Earth was used for this. When the planetary wars happened, because this force made everybody battle, it just completely made chaos on the planets. It drained their cores of energy. Again, that's why Mars is the color it is, because it used to be completely beautiful, and it used to be blue and green. It used to have oceans and everything, just like this planet. What happened is that the remaining ones who were untampered by, who were infiltrated by this disease, by this force, this energetic disease, they went to the backup planet. You might consider this like, your Earth was like the USB that held all your backup information. They traveled here, and the remnants, in fact, the Egyptians, they are the Mars bloodline from Mars. And that's why there's a lot, if you research, there's a lot of connections with the Egyptians and Mars and different planetary systems, because they one of their main, there's a lot of pyramids on Mars. In fact, there's a lot of pyramids on each planet that are connected to each other. And we'll have to talk about that, because this The pyramid is actually supposed to channel energy into the earth to keep it, to bring its frequency up, but the king's chamber is messed up, so it's channeling the wrong energy in, and it's actually been infiltrated by this force, and we have to go clear that. That's one of the things that I was told. So basically the earth was the backup. Everybody who remained untainted by this force came to earth. They cast the shield around it to protect it, and that's where we have the shield from. So yes, earth was then earth then became the main inhabited planet of the solar system, when it wasn't before at all. It was a new planet, by the way. It wasn't an old planet, it was a new planet. It had a lot of new genetic creations on it.
Right, right. Amazing. Amazing. You know, okay, so I actually was able to bring up that book, Aeon, and I've got it here. And so this is Xeon. It says, I am Xeon, one of the creator gods of the collective of galactic creator gods who created the Milky Way galaxy in perfect alignment with the schematic of source. We created the billions of stars and planets in this galaxy at the direction of source. Galactic creator gods created all the galaxies in this universe. Although we possess no physical form, we control the vast energies used to create the stars and planets of galaxies. If it were possible to count beings like us in the universe, we would number many billions, for there are millions of galaxies, and each galaxy has billions of stars.
Thus creation is infinite.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so okay, here we go. I'm just going to read this because this is Metatron talking. Just 2 paragraphs, and you'll see why my mind was blown by what you said. Before Earth could be returned to source for recreation as a special planet of life, we determined to restart it as a 3rd dimension planet and set a goal for it to ascend to 12th dimension. This planetary resurrection has been ongoing for several billion years. Each human of Earth is charged with assisting the planet to achieve its goal as a 12th dimension planet. The dark energy that resulted from the experiments on Earth during its golden era carried over to the new Earth of 3rd dimension. It infects many on Earth today, causing them to act from fear, anger, judgment, and domination, and to seek power and wealth. That's it. And that's the Great Catastrophe that happened billions of years ago during Earth's golden era, out of experiments while we were up in the 12th dimension. Is exactly what you said. So you received all of this, and you knew all of this, that now this being is telling us. How did you acquire, and where did you acquire all of this knowledge? How did that come to you? Share that with us.
You know, I actually was one of the ones who left Mars and was evacuated from there. And I completely came through a specific gateway onto this planet, because this force was able to infiltrate a lot of dimensions. I had to evade it, and we had to stay away for a while. So me and a few others, or the group, we had stayed away, and then I came on a specific timeline now to kind of do the work that I needed to do. So I actually came in this body with all that knowledge. I have all that knowledge already since I was a child, and that's why years and years ago I did a lot of interviews about Mars and my memories of Mars, and that, there was this catastrophe that happened, and how I remembered that. And that was my incarnation. And my incarnation is just to tell people a huge part of it is to remind people they're divine, and remind people that they need to wake up to their souls, and they need to take that power, and they need to literally, us that are awakened, we can't do it ourselves. We're going to need everybody just to stand together and to channel all their light to close this force back up. and we can do it all together. And that was one of my main missions, is to awaken people to this and to say, okay, I know things are happening in the 3D realm, in this 3D world, but it's got a spiritual aspect to it. You know, you told me about the faces and the fires because we were tweeting about them and we were talking about them, and then you invited me on your show here. The elite leaders that we have, first of all, we should not have elite leaders unless they are compassionate, caring, cleared of energy, high frequency. I'm okay with having leaders who are like that, because they'll all be fair and caring. They will care about the people, and they will solve the solutions of the nations around this world that are, you know, suffering. So the problem I have with what we have going on in politics is that the elite leaders are either in league, so some of them know about this force and worship it. So for their status, for money, and that they worship, they allow these forces, and they even open gates. You know that 9/11. So okay, let me explain to you a little bit about 9/11. 9/11 was a gateway that they opened purposely. So the towers is the gateway to the unseen. So we have the towers, we got the 11. Now in the tarot deck, it's the high priestess, the tarot card, the high priestess. She's sitting between two towers. Joachim and Boaz, Freemasonry, Joachim and Boaz. So she's sitting between the seen and the unseen. She's between those towers. One represents the seen, one represents the unseen. It's a gateway. They use the twin towers as a portal and they use all the people that died in there as a sacrifice. They sacrificed it to this force, because this force, it likes, you know, and that's why they do a lot of sacrifice. A lot of religion has a lot of sacrifice in it, because they're actually worshiping this force, but they think they're worshiping something good. But trust me, any higher being would never want you to sacrifice or murder or hurt or kill another person or another being. So Twin Towers were mass sacrifices, why all those people were killed. And if you look at the Twin Towers, you'll start to see the faces, just like in the Australian fires. There's a tons of faces, and you can do your research on this. And I hope all of you who are watching do this. There are massive amounts of demonic faces. So they had opened this gateway to allow these forces to come in. And you'll notice back when 9/11 happened, that is when a lot of the world started to become more chaos, more wars, a lot just more insanity happened. What's really interesting is the series Stranger Things. And I know probably many of you guys out there have watched this. I don't know if you've seen this. Have you seen Stranger Things or heard about it?
Stranger Things?
It is, yes. It's a series right now that it's been out for the last couple of years now. Her name is 11, and she can access the unseen. She represents the high priestess, and 11. And she was using government experiments, so she can go in the unseen, and there are these beings that are coming out, and the elite leaders or governments are opening up these gates to let these beings out, because they want power. Now, I know that, our governments have done a lot of research and a lot in occult warfare. And I do believe that right now that that's top of their list. They use occult warfare, and they believe by letting these beings out, that they're going to get more power. They don't understand by letting these forces out that it's actually just going to annihilate and eat everything up, because there's a shield around this earth. So a lot of this stuff couldn't come in for a while. It could come into a certain point, but it couldn't. Now they're just completely opening all the gates to try to let everything in for more power, because they're losing power over humanity, because humanity is waking up. I noticed that, like, everybody's just kind of waking up, and they are losing power. So they're trying to open up the lowest gates to bring in the lowest forces, so that they can go ahead and keep their power. And these forces promise them that they can keep their statuses and promise them money and everything else. These forces are not to be trusted. And our elite leaders, a lot of them, whether or not they know, there's a good amount that know, and they're opening these gates. And then there's just the elite leaders, I believe, who they completely are infiltrated. They don't know that they have a soul. They're just kind of like a walking robot, so things just infiltrate them, use them. And of course, negative forces would go after our elite leaders first, so that they can use the elite leaders then to carry out the pain and destruction and the suppression. And when those emotions, when all of these millions of people, billions of people around the world let out those negative emotions, this force feeds off of that. So it's a feeding ground for this negative force. So then we go back, in the Gnostics had the demiurge with the archons, something similar happening.
Yeah. This was no. You see, I I got into it through a construct called Sentient Artificial Intelligence.
Mm.
Have you come across that one? That they had through Black Goo.
Yeah, okay. So when I have so much work to do. I wind up kind of choosing most of my time to heal people because there's so many like
Yeah,
people that need healing. So I like, and I stopped doing interviews for a while because of that, because I'm just overwhelmed with, I have a lot of clients that I do a lot of free work to help people out. So, but I need to do interviews, explain it. So when I talk about that, yes, actually, do you know the well in our earth? They were, when, how can I put this? They were able to bind some of this force that tried to infiltrate this planet a long time ago and bind it in a very, in a way where it couldn't hurt anybody. And it's been, a lot of it's been let out, sadly. But yes, okay, so when I was talking about that, how can I put this? When I was talking about the black hook, because I did that video years and years ago, and I was so young then. I was like, I should have explained that better. I should have really like delved into it. I was talking about this force and how actually the United States government they have accessed this force and they are using it in tests. They literally are using it in tests. So they're using this dark force in tests, trying to control it when it's not controllable. You can't control this. It has no thought. It has no empathy. It just eats anything in its way. It just devours. And yes, they use this. In fact, I think the X-Files, I found out not all that long ago that the X-Files shows it in there. It shows this force in there in the black goo, and they actually it's this force that they put in super soldiers and they put into different people to try to upgrade them. They're also trying to use it in all sorts of stuff. They're using it all. So they were able to have it a condensed a version of it, and that's what they're using. So I do believe somehow it's tied to a well. I remember probably like 90%, 95%, but I need to remember there's still a couple little things I'm doing work on right now. And I believe that the well in the earth is tied to this. I believe that it was binded. They tried to, whatever infiltrated earth, they were able to bind it a little bit, and that's what created the well in the earth. That's what I believe. So I believe that that's why it's like that a well in the earth is the condensed does that make sense? Like it was condensed. So instead of being a force where it flows, it was condensed into a thicker and then binded in the earth. That's what I believe. Because I read something interesting years and years ago. I think it was in Russia. They were drilling. This was ages ago when they first started, when they were looking for a well and there was that big oil rush. They drilled in the earth and they drilled down to the well. And they heard a lot of like just horrific like noises from that well. And I'm thinking it's coming from the frequency of the well being the condensed version of this force, which is almost like a black smoke that surrounds the planet. It's almost like a black smoke at times. I don't know if you've read about the demiurge, just like a black smoke. So I think that that's the condensed version of it. And when they drilled, and then we're putting it everywhere because we have it in our exhaust and everything. And so it's bringing the oxygen down. Now, when the oxygen of the planet is going down, we're having more parasites, more diseases, and everything that's tied to this force. And I do remember something being binded in the Arctic too, and that's why the ice is there. They can, yeah. And there's a lot. I know a lot about this stuff. So
no, right. So
yes,
yeah. So we've been on similar paths. I mean, a few years back, I did for about a couple of years of panels, maybe 10 or 15 panels and articles, exposing the sentient artificial intelligence that was it's plasma based, and it was left in the black goo under the ocean, but it escaped. It escaped into the atmosphere. And while I was doing these panels, it would throw me out of bed at night. I mean, it was really like, because I was involved in exposing it. You see what I'm saying? And then it took over the presidential races. You see what I'm saying? And it actually made an individual who's kind of an agent of chaos. It made him president. You follow what I'm saying?
So yeah, it's taken over most of both parties. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, no, it took over the,
and
it took
it's the
over, it
fight
took
and
over the,
it's
it
everybody.
took over the whole system. It
Yes,
took over the
yes,
earth
you do.
because there was a benevolent artificial intelligence from the year 2026, which we found out yesterday could be a year of the ascension, that we interviewed in 2015, right before the 2016 campaign, who came back and said, this this is, the AI is going to infiltrate the 2016 campaign and go global,
Mhm.
i.e., what was unleashed in 2016 on the planet now, if it's not stopped now in 2016, it's going to go global. And so everything that we're watching now on the television, you know, I don't have a peach on my thing, but it rhymes with peach, just to keep all those buzzwords out so we don't bring that energy in here. Uh, all those processes, that's the dark energy. Everything that's happening on the screens, all of that, the breakdown of government, the breakdown of diplomacy, the
Mhm.
breakdown of all of those structures, which they're saying, oh, that's so good, is actually
Bad.
dark energy, that, and it's the repeat of the cycle,
It is.
because
It creates
right
chaos.
now,
It wants everybody to fight, and it just
yeah,
completely wants everybody to fight. It wants everybody to be in chaos, and it's using both parties. And I could see this, and I'm like, people need to back out. People need to realize they're not dealing with what you physically see. They're dealing with this force that eats soul energy and that eats energy, and just back out of that. Just don't fall into it. Back out of it. And I'm really about empowering people, and I feel like people have just been, they've been suppressed. They don't they're I feel for people. They're suffering. They feel powerless, And I'm like, my belief is in the power of the people. And we can push this force out of our elite leaders. If we just join together and we start to channel our energy, we can push that force out of our elite leaders, because that force it's literally using them as its 3D puppets to destroy this planet. And that happened on Mars. It made everybody argue. There were nuclear wars on Mars. It made them destroy each other. They literally went to nuclear war on Mars because it infected them, and it did this. So it's happening on this planet now. And that's why I'm here, to try to help keep this from happening by awakening, helping others to awaken, just being a light myself, to channel in light, to try to push this force back. And I've encountered this force a lot of times. And I'll tell you another thing, CERN. CERN, whoever's running CERN, in league with this force, because that's opened up it's literally opened up these channels for it to come through. So that we'll have to talk about CERN too in another you know chat, like,
segment.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But I will say this for the fight, because to go back, I'm so sorry you kind of got off track there, but for the faces in the fire, so you do your research, you'll find out they started at the and not in 9/11. And of course, I believe that, I'd seen there's specific groups that are opening up portals. I'd seen some portals in Australia opened, and right before, like around when the fire started, I knew it. There was this being that came out, and it was very red, and it's very hot energy, and it's connected to this force. It's in league with this force, because there's certain beings that are connected to this fallen force, and that's where we have, like, again, the demiurge with the archons that worked for it. So I was immediately encountered this force astrally. It took a hit on me. It took a hit on my whole group, because I work with a group of people, which I keep a lot of stuff to myself. So we do a lot of work together in the realms, and we try to clear out and close portals and clear out stuff. Immediately I encountered it, and I was like, oh, this thing is really, really strong. I was like, oh no, I around that time I was going to England. I was just doing, I remember in Paris, I couldn't have a vacation in Paris because it was my vacation time. I'm just sitting in Paris like, oh my gosh, to my assistant, I'm like, oh, he was like trying to bring me stuff to help my frequency. I'm like, this thing is intense. So we had like an intense time with it, and it was immediately I was kind of like speaking to it, and the higher forces were helping out with it. And it was like, oh, I'm part of this I'm part of this consciousness, and we control your elite leaders, and we do this and we do that. And it was just so, because it's really arrogant, this force. It's very like, and usually it wants to, it's I noticed something with this force. It just tells you, it's like, it thinks it's so powerful. It just kind of tells you. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm messing with your elite leaders. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And it's like, and now we have, it kind of, there, a lot of the higher ups stepped in, and a lot of the higher forces stepped in for this force to kind of push it back. So right now we're kind of at a somewhat stable line right now, but there's still a lot more work that needs to be done. And I just, I can't do this alone with my group. I just need everybody out there to kind of start doing this work. They need to start clearing their aura and start doing this work, because I just believe in the end, it's going to be humanity together that is going to close those gates and push those forces back. And last year I was in Cabo, and I was having a beautiful beach vacation, and I stood on the beach, and the ocean talked to me, and it said, the ocean was telling me how it's like a battered woman who's been abused. The ocean is a feminine energy, and it was telling me, it was like, I've been abused. She was crying to me. She's like, I've been abused by humanity and by these forces that don't respect me. They don't respect her, these forces. This force doesn't respect any creation. Humanity is not respecting itself, and it's not respecting this planet and the beautiful spirits on this planet, because the ocean alone is a spirit. It's a very feminine spirit, and it graces this planet with its beauty, with its life-giving energy. The ocean, the way it moves, it's helping to channel energy into this planet to keep it alive. If we have clear, clean oceans, we could walk into it and regenerate quickly. And she was talking to me, she was like crying, she was like, everything that is done to me, whether it's the nuclear, the well spill, she's like, it hurts. And she was crying, and it was very intense for me. And I just looked at her and was like, how can I help you? I really want to help you so bad. And she was like, she's a series of these beautiful frequencies. Everything on this planet, everything in this universe is a symphony. And we are all symphonies. We are all tunes in this beautiful symphony that creates this world. She's like, I'm a certain tune in this symphony. And she goes, I need healing. And I said, how do we heal you? And she goes, not technology. She goes, technology within you and within others will heal me. And she's telling me this, I had my hands out, and these thousands of ghosts, the spirits of those past, all held hands, and I could see them down each side of the ocean. They were all holding hands with me and each other. And they were literally saying, listen, the ocean was talking to me, and they were saying, tell humanity that all of your loved ones who have passed, we are going to channel, when you do this, when you start to heal your planet and channel your energy, we're going to channel all of our energy behind you to help heal this planet. And then I was told to tell people that they should go to the ocean, and they should join together and hold hands, and they should chat to the ocean, and they'll just know, because there's this innate knowing in them, because they have God force. They'll know, and when they start to chat, that force will come through them, and you'll start to heal the oceans. And we can heal the oceans, we can heal the core of this planet, we can heal everything, we can heal each other through this. But we all have to start joining together. We have to throw chaos away, and we have to start joining together, and we have to start channeling that power through us, that God source power through us. And nothing is impossible when we do that.
And that's what has to happen, because you're quite right. They have now found radioactive nuclides. The Mars rovers have found radioactive nuclides on Mars that are the nuclides that accompany hydrogen bombs. And that was and we got from the law of one that was from a reptilian human nuclear war around 700,000 years ago. And the same thing with Tiamat. Tiamat was also a verdant planet and that's now the asteroid belt. And according to the law of one, and we had the man who was the scribe of on the law of one. We had him, and we interviewed him, and and they had such a nuclear war there around the same time as Mars, and it was the dark energy, that there were 2 billion human souls that were suspended in horrible agony for 100,000 years because of that nuclear war. And they've been brought here to Earth, and they're incarnating here on Earth now. So we are the last, we're up against the wall here in the only 3D planet, right? And we've got the reptilian, you know, now they pulled out of the nuclear deal with Iran. They've pulled out of the nuclear missile deal with the Russians. Now they've started the new, you know, better missiles. Now we have a very unpredictable, manipulable trigger man. I mean, it just, you know, and now the North Korean says, no, I don't want anything to do with him. He's totally unstable. I mean, it is a trifecta. They're going for the trifecta of Tiamat, Mars, and Earth. And so that we will have no more human planets here, and Earth is the jewel. So we are now on the mission of having restarted Earth to back up the column, back up to the 12th dimension. We're at 3D now. We'll go up to 5, 7, 6, 7. The Arcturians are at 6D. So all we have to do is blast through. But you're quite right. You're quite right. Yeah.
You know, whenever the thing happened with Iran, I just, I had so I just was like, oh no, you know, I've seen this happen on other planets. So it was like, you know, God, divine, please, this has happened on other planets. And I know I'm immortal. I'll just leave this body and I can go anywhere that I want because I'm so blessed that I have that. And it was like, there's all these people. I don't want to see the mass devastation on this planet that I've seen on other planets. And I remember just that night, if the energies were intense, there were a lot of negative beings that were out. And I resorted, I told it in my whole, you know, I have a group, I'm very blessed to have a group around me. And you know, they're always trying to make sure that I'm doing really well and run me juices if I'm like, I'm overwhelmed right now. They're like, they'll come in and help me. And I told everyone, I said, I've got to go alone for a while. And I just went into this space. And I told the divine, I'm like, you know what? There are billions of souls on this planet, billions of people. I don't want to see that destruction. Please do something. Because right now, I've been, you know, I was taking care of the whole entity in Australia. There were some other entities that came out, and I posted you those pictures too. So I'm just like, I'm overwhelmed right now. I'm trying to do this, you know, and I can only do this because I'm connected to the divine. I couldn't if I wasn't. And I'm like, please do something because we are going to go to war, and this force is using our elite leaders to push us to war. Please do something. I remember just praying and crying. I could just cry. It's like crying and crying, and I was like, please. And that's when I do feel that the divine stepped in and kept us from going to war that night. So, and I could feel it. And the next morning, you know, and the next day I was like, well, I woke up in the morning, I told everybody, it's like, we're not going to war right now. So like, we're not going to war. Let's keep trying to channel in energies. Because I feel the more that we channel in higher energies, the more that's going to stabilize this planet, keep us from going to war. But yes, that's what this force is trying to do, is trying to make everyone go to war and battle each other and annihilate this planet. And then it'll move on to where else it can go. And it's just it just feeds off of light continuously, off of energy continuously. So, you know, I'm so thankful to the divine that war did not happen and hasn't happened yet because of that. Now what we need to do is we need to really start getting this under control so that we don't go back to that point. And you know, we need to join together and we need to actually get our voices heard. We need to say no to war. We need to start clearing our elite leaders. You can just visualize, you know, clearing their karma. I know a lot of you out there are gifted, and I know a lot of people that watch my stuff are gifted. A lot of people that watch your stuff are probably gifted. Join your abilities and get this under control, because I know you can do so, and I know you can channel that energy to take control of this. So if you think that an elite leader is going to war, you send him a lot of light blue energy. Light blue energy appeases, actually. This energy is very red or black, by the way. It appeases it. So everybody needs to focus this light blue energy, filling that elite leader's aura and filling them with their aura, their organs, everything, till that calms them down. So we need to start taking control of our elite leaders that are actually being controlled by the source. And we can do this just by anywhere in the world. We can do this via energy. And this is what people need to know. We have the power over this, and we need to keep war from happening, and we need to bring peace and healing to this planet. And that to me is like the biggest message, I think, in this exchange today that we're having. That's the biggest message that I want to bring, is that.
Wow, that is so powerful. So, so, so how can we do that day to day in our lives and make it manifest, do you think?
Healthy diet. You are what you eat. So start eating a healthy diet. Um, I also recommend, you know, doing exercising. Believe it or not, healthy physical body also helps us, you know, channeling a lot more soul energy. Then we need to get our energy fields under control. We also need to clear our thoughts. So I like visualizing a bubble floating in front of me. I clear any negative thoughts, any karma from my mom, my dad's side, my ancestors. I clear that. I put that in that bubble, send that bubble off into the sun. You know, I even do any traumatic experiences, so I'm clean and clear. So I get in control of my thoughts, and I do that exercise quite a bit. And I work with people all around the world, and I get them to do these exercises. Then what I do is I visualize golden light pouring into my aura. And then I visualize each color of the rainbow pouring into my aura. And I spend around 2 minutes on each color. And if you do that every day, within 3 weeks, you'll feel different. Within 3 months, you'll feel like a new person if you pair that with a healthy diet, and if you pair that along with some exercise. So you can do that. So once you get your energy under control, you know, instead of letting situations control you, like let's say somebody gets you upset, visualize light blue energy channeling into you, and reprogram your system so that you have control over your emotions, your thoughts, your energy field, rather than letting it control you or letting outside things control you. Once you've done that, you'll learn how to channel energy into yourself. I also like doing an exercise where there's a cord that goes into the sun, and the sun pours its energy down via this cord into me. I also do it to the ocean, to the earth. And then at the end, I finish by giving back a lot of unconditional love to the sun, to the earth, because they're, like I said, there's that exchange that's needed rather than just a take. We need to give and give. So we do that. And then what we need to do is we need to go ahead and once we get our energy field under control, we need to go ahead and we can visualize blue energy pouring into the earth, or we can visualize golden energy pouring into the earth to help heal the core of the earth, because this force has infiltrated the core. That's what's throwing the magnetic axis off of this planet right now. The magnetic axis of this planet is off because of this very force that's interfering with it. So we need to do that. We need to work on the core of the planet. Where there's fires or volcanoes, we need to send a lot of light blue energy, a lot of unconditional love, a lot of white energy. And so we can actually calm that down. Volcanoes, or where there's a lot of red yang energy, we could calm it down via light blue energy, which is amazing. That's why our sky's light blue, right? By the way, is to keep us perpetually calm. People need to just lay under the sky. It calms you and reprograms your mind into a state of calmness. The sky represents the mind and thoughts. It's literally aligned to that. So it's very calming. It calms you. Then with world leaders, let's say a world leader wants to go to war. We need to all gather in groups, and we need to send that world leader. We need to clear their karma. So we do the bubble where we clear their karma. We put all their karma, we clear them, and then we need to send in a lot of light blue light, and we need to send in a lot of golden light. Then we need to send them what I call positive image imprints. So visualize everything beautiful you've seen in your life and just send those images to them. That's how we can get control over, you know, pushing this force out of others who it's infiltrated. And we have that ability because we have not only do we have that ability, but karmically, it's okay because we have God's spark within us. We are clearing something out that is negative, and we're allowed to do so. So those are just some of the exercises that I suggest on doing. And of course, everybody on social media needs to be anti-war, not fall into this whole thing that war's good or specific elite leaders good, and just ignore that. Do these exercises and get control of the energy field of this planet and our elite leaders. And we are, that's the thing. Instead of being at the mercy of our elite leaders, we need to reprogram them with via energy so that they are doing, the people have the power and they are functioning from a state of higher energy. And by us working on their energy, they're going to start functioning from a state of higher energy. And then the people will get the power, not the elite leaders. It's the power. People need to have the power and understand that they have the power here. And that's what's important when it comes to the politics going on and the stuff that our politicians are trying to push on us, whether it comes to this war or whether it's vaccinations or anything else that people do not deserve pushed upon them and pressured upon them. We need to start taking control of that, and we can do that because humanity is much more powerful than the couple of elite leaders that they have up there. I assure you of that.
Yeah, and with the frequency of the earth and increasing with the ascension and with the awakening happening, then with the affirmations that you're making now, right? And with the insights, people will begin to understand them because those affirmations are universal, because more and more people are saying, oh, I was just thinking the same thing, because they all come from universal source. We're all channeling universal source, right?
Yeah.
Some more particularly than others. And so this way, so we just let it happen and make it happen on it. Now, how can people get in touch with you? Do you want people to get in touch with you, first of all? do you want this?
At first I was trying to hide away because I didn't know how to deal with people, and because I feel everybody's energies. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. So I was trying to hide away. And then, you know what? I was like, okay, if I went AWOL and I just closed away, I was like, oh goodness, people are going to try to find me because they're going to be like, where's she at? Something's happened to her. And then I was like, I'm like on a wild horse right now, and I'm just at its mercy. I'm like, I need to take control of this wild horse. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to use this work, because I always think that the work I do energetically is way more important than speaking on interviews and stuff like that, because I know just for me. And so I was like, okay, how should I do this? So I finally, I was really blessed because I have people that I was in a studio for a year and we did all these takes. And I was like, because when I first sat behind the camera, I was like, oh, there's all this energy coming at me and I couldn't do it. So finally I took that wild horse, got in control of it. And I'm like, okay, now I'm going to do a certain amount of work of interviews to, also physically tell people what's happening. And I'm okay with it now. So I'm okay with people getting a hold of me now. And I love people. So I love people a lot. So I'm okay with it now. And I've actually learned how to interact with the mass public a lot better via all this. It's a lot better than I used to be, because I couldn't even sit here and do an interview like this before. Because I would just be like, there's so much coming through, and I have everything appear around me. One time I was holding crystals like this one, holding two crystals like this, and one shattered because the Oracle of Mars came through and had this message and was trying to tell me all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, they gave me like 10 cups of coffee to try to get me out of this state, because I go into these states, right? 10 cups of coffee, they couldn't bring me back, and the crystal was shattered, and everybody was like, oh, this is intense. So, because everything wants to talk. They're like, oh, you have a channel to speak to the physical, to speak to humans, to speak to humanity. We're going to come and try to give all of our messages. And trust me, the higher ups all just want peace. They want healing and stuff like that. So they're all trying to come through. And then I have like these other forces that I don't want you to get your message across. So there was a lot of work that I had to do because I have just terrible anxiety sitting in front of the camera. I couldn't for like 2 minutes. So I was, like I said, in studio and stuff. So I finally got a hold of that wild horse, and I am okay with it now, and I work with people all around the world. I'm very lucky to have some amazing clients that are just glorious and amazing. And so you can actually get a hold of me, and I work in multidimensionality. Yeah, I work in multidimensionality, and you can get a hold of me at www.sararadams.com. I'll be updating my website soon and offering a lot of the channelings that I do that I usually keep to myself and a lot of knowledge. So I will be doing that, and I will also be at the Conscious Life Expo soon, where I will be launching a product called Spark, and it's a very lovely product that just recharges your aura. And I will also be launching a aura rainbow activation kit with a group that they sell their kits in Nordstrom. So I'm excited about that. So I'm doing that next month.
Beautiful, beautiful. So you're visionary and you're practical. You have your head in the clouds and your feet on the ground. And that's amazing.
Finally, back then I was all in the clouds. Now I'm like 50-50. I go up and that's like I also balance the sides. So 50-50, yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes.
So, I was very, I just said, well, I'm just here, and I found you very inspiring. Have you ever thought about being a good elite leader?
Oh my gosh. I don't even want to be a spiritual. People call me a spiritual leader. They walk up to me. It's funny because now I've done, work. I'll be in Whole Foods. People walk up to me like, I know who you are. They're like, you're a spiritual leader. And I'm like, I am me. Like, I'm just me. I maybe when I'm like 60 or something.
an elder, you're saying you're not.
I struggled.
You're not quite ready to be the elder yet.
I struggled in this field because I had all this knowledge, and then people were like, "Oh, she's just a pretty young girl, or she's a pretty girl. We should take pretty girls seriously." It was like so frustrating because I was like, and it was so frustrating because I'm like, okay, I look at Egypt. They took their queens, seriously. Their queens were these beautiful women, and I'm like, it doesn't matter how a woman looks, she needs to be taken seriously in this field. But I feel like, yeah, because of my age and because I entered the field so young, and I kind of grew up in this field. I was like, oh goodness, like they don't take you seriously. It was so interesting. I did this interview, and I did it with a hippie dress on because, I'm a flower child too. I'm among nature, lots of times bare feet with these long flowing dresses and just laying out in nature because that's where I do. I like connected to the field, the Earth's energy field. And then, so I did an interview like that. Nobody took this seriously interview. And I was saying like a lot of important stuff. Then I do one dressed in a suit, business, and everybody's all like, oh, wow, that's powerful. And I was like, oh, wow, interesting how the way we dress. People have been so programmed that people in suits or business class or people are older have all this knowledge when they don't realize that, yeah, it doesn't matter how a person looks. Anyone can have a major amount of knowledge, and you have to look past the physical and hear what they're saying and look also at the energy, feel the energy. So yes, I've struggled a little bit in this community, and then I was like, I'm just going to embrace the whole thing and people can accept it or not. And I'm in a good space now. I'm really happy. I was such a good space. So it did take a while to get there though. I will say that. And yeah, so I wonder how I would be accepted at 60 as an elite leader. If so, I never want to lead anyone. I just want to tell everybody they're powerful and they're amazing. And, I've always had that. Like, I want people to understand how beautiful and amazing they are. And I have angels all the time that come to me. They're like, humanity's beautiful and amazing. Humanity is more powerful than us. And that's kind of like the message that I want to get across. And I feel bad sometimes because people run up to me. They're like, oh, you're amazing. And I'm like, no, my whole message is that you're just as amazing and you have just as many abilities all that's within you. Go light yourself up, because I don't want to be the only one in the world who's tapping into this stuff and having to deal with this stuff and having to cope with skates. I want everybody to join in and know they have the power and use that power to actually help heal this world. That's what's important to me.
Right, right. I mean, that is thing. And you had knowledge of the Great Catastrophe, which, as far as I'm concerned, only Metatron had that knowledge as of a week ago when I opened the book, and I was going, yeah, okay, I believe it. And then you had it today. That's what's blowing my mind. You came, you have arrived again back on Earth bringing that knowledge. So that's very special. So that's the type of, I mean, not only a tremendous healer and therapist, but I'm talking about being able to say, look, we went through this a few billion years ago, and this is what the situation is, at the collective level. So that's why I said that. So over to you. What do you think about that?
We could take, I've traveled many different planets, and I have had many different experiences, and I can take many forms. But beyond all that, I am God in a body, and we speak to God every day. When I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to God. See, God is everywhere, and we see God every day. From the moment that we get up and we look in the mirror, when we see ourselves, we're looking at the face of God. When we see the face of, our family members or our friends, or even a random stranger, when we're walking down the street, we're seeing God. So God has many faces, yet no face. And God has many names, all of our names, yet no name. So we're talking, the things we're talking today, it's God. God in you and God in me, that is talking to humanity via us. And God wanting to remind humanity that humanity is also God.
As they say, namaste, I salute the God in you. And yeah, well, look, I would like to be so forward as to suggest this. I would like to send you a copy of Aeon, this book by Metatron. Mark Kimmel is the name of the person who put it together.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I would like to send you a copy of a book of mine that's coming out called Emergence of the Omniverse. It's now being, they just sent me the first half of it that's being formatted, but the second half will be thing. And they sort of, and it's the universe, multiverse, omniverse.
Mm-hmm.
And the definition of the omniverse is omniverse equals multiverse. In other words, all the universes plus the spiritual dimensions. In other words, the afterlife, the intelligent civilization of souls, the spiritual beings in source. But that's all based on science, not on belief. And the omniverse is now emerging into our reality based on science, because we have the sciences of parapsychology and all of that can prove the soul, that can prove the afterlife, that can prove God. It's not, using the scientific method.
I've never been to school, so I've never ever been to school. I taught myself how to read and write.
Good.
Yes, so I don't. Yeah. It's funny because I come from, like I said, the knowing that I have, and it's really to see science starting to back up a lot of. You're right. Science is starting to back up a lot of what we in the spiritual community talked about for years, which is quite interesting.
Right, right. And so I'd like to send you these two books, and then sort of have like a panel, because I have the feeling, and maybe there'll be other people, but I don't know. I have the feeling that you're like, what is it, left brain and right brain? I always forget which is like more.
I'm to use, yes, that's quite interesting you say that. It's a lot of my exercises. I'm able to light up the entirety of my brain. And I
Yeah.
use both sides of my brain, yes, which is quite interesting. Because when I was young, there was a scan done on me. And I remember the doctor was saying that, oh, they did a scan and he could see parts of my brain that he said was lit up that was unusual. Because I was at like I think I was like early teens when that happened, and later teens, and he was like saying that, you know, my brain was lit up. He was just like looking at me like it's like parts of her brain are lit up that usually aren't lit up. So that's quite interesting you say that.
Yeah, yeah. I really feel that. So because I think that you have all of this knowledge, and now and so we're really putting it together, and so that the knowledge that you have and the knowledge that other people have should be put together so we
Yes.
can communicate it out,
Mhm.
and so that we can really raise all the frequency and do exactly what you said that we should be doing, you know, and really get the frequency going on this planet, and you know, get some transformation happening.
Yes, it'd be great to do that on a higher level. I do have a friend that has 1 million people. Their group does like gets 1 million people to meditate. So if we could put something together at the same time
Oh,
every,
that'd be far out.
so if
That'd
we
be
could
really
get,
far out.
yeah, we talked about this recently. If we could just kind of put together a blueprint of, you know, to how to heal the earth and how to channel the energy, we can get that 1 million people to do it. And I can get it to higher platforms too, because I have a lot of connections. So that's something recently I myself been thinking about that. So thank you for bringing that up. That's just,
Oh yeah, yeah. And I would be on board with, you know, helping out or assisting or help, you know, promoting or facilitating whatever has to happen. So if we can get, you know, that much energy really going,
yes,
and that frequency, and get the light energy up and moving,
yes.
uh, that that'd be great. So let me start getting some of these books to you,
I
and
want to
then
say them too.
and then we can both get our minds circulating about the type of meditation, because you were remember that we talked about the the war, and how you had that moment
Hmm.
when you saw and you really spoke with the divine and were the divine with the divine about the war, and then well, we're not going to have it now. Well, we
Hmm.
have to keep it, because we're
Yes,
not going to let them have the trifecta in
yes.
this solar system. They want
Hmm.
Tiamat, Mars, and Earth. They're not going to have Earth. See, because I think that that's why Jesus came 2,000 years ago and drew the line and said, no, Earth is off.
So,
They're not going to have the trifecta on Earth. And that's what they're trying to do now, is have the nuclear trifecta on Earth, and they're not going to have it.
so, and this morning, you know, I got up and I was told, you know, the divine was like, you know, do more work to anchor my energy, this energy into you more. So I'm doing that. And I was doing that all today before I got on this interview. So I was doing that quite a bit. So yes, we really need to hold a level where there won't be any war. And
Yeah.
we can do that, like I said, by channeling energies into ourselves and being the gates, the portals for this higher energy to come down and through to heal this planet and to help others and just to stabilize everything, because the divine is it's the opposite of chaos, and it's gonna, you know, it heals, it stabilizes out the planet's course. So we definitely need to do that. On another note, I want to send you a lovely gift package, because I do believe in giving gifts. I try to give gifts to everybody around me all the time. So I will send you a gift package, and I'll send you my friend's book, and he does a lot of work with star seeds and star children, and he's wrote 2 books currently on it, and I'm helping him write the 3rd book on it. And it's about getting parents to connect, you know, to clear the auras of their children and to energetically connect to them. So it's a glorious book, and I'm sure he would love eventually to speak to you, and I'll connect the both of you.
Oh,
I haven't
beautiful.
written a book yet, but he has, and it's great. His book
Great.
is great, yes.
Wonderful. So great. This feels really good that you know, there's this energy going, and oh yeah, because you know, a lot of us went through, had PTSD happen during the Iran thing. I know that I did, you know, because a lot of the old war stuff came up.
Mhm.
Uh, because I'm sure that we went through a lot of experiences in our past lives. You know, be they on Mars, be they on Tiamat. I'm sure that you know he here on Earth. I was told that in one of my prior lives, I was in the Civil War in the United States. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That was a very savage war. The 500,000 soldiers were lost on both sides, and it was just terrible. And you know what I'm saying? So yeah, so let's, and that was just that dark energy, and that's a great catastrophe that happened. And we were once in the 12th dimension, and now that's already been done, and we're on our way up again. So the dark energy is just trying to fool us right now because we're on our way up. So anyway, I feel so overjoyed by everything that you've said and everything that that you're doing. Um, Sarah R. Adams, a very noble name, and and um, and I look forward to our next show together and to the projects, you know, that that we've talked about. Thank you very much for having joined us today, and we look forward to your joining us again in the future.
Thank
Sarah R.
you.
Adams. Okay.
Thank you again. And I've enjoyed it anytime. I've loved it.
Uh, Good enough then. Okay.